Metalheads, and welcome to episode 37 of the Harsh Vocals Podcast. Welcome to our mid-year best of episode for 2025. Of course, I'm Justin Corbett. I'm joined by my great co-host, Christian Renner. How are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Just happy to be alive.
For now.
Yeah, for now. It'll be all right. Our senator here in Iowa said, we're all going to die anyway, so what does it matter?
The state of the world's not great anywhere.
Yep.
But at least there's new music. So that's what we always say, and it always tends to be true. We can always fall back to our therapy, which is the amazing new releases every week. So before we get into...
our top 10 list will be filled with great albums. So there you go.
Definitely. Well, before we get into our top 10, I think we should go ahead and talk about the new stuff from the past 2 weeks. So let's dive into that first, and then we'll get to the best of part a little bit later.
All right, I'm going to start out with the band Death Reapers and their album Thirst for Chaos. We have melodic death metal with a little bit of thrash mixed in from Poznan, Poland. They've been around since 2019, and they are unsigned. How these guys are unsigned, I don't know why I always say that, but I mean, this band should not be fucking unsigned. They are way too good. The track that I picked is, I would assume not. And I mean, between Poland and Greece, what the fuck? Just so many great bands coming out of both those countries. Mm-hmm. And Poland being that religious makes it kind of a little bit strange, but maybe that's what's pushing it. Who knows? The track that I picked is a song called Enemy, and the main reason is that, you know me, I'm all about that riff. And the opening riff, and then the riff that comes in at the 1 minute mark, it's damn near perfection for me. People listening will hear it when it starts. That is exactly what really works for me. And this is one of those albums that, is, I guess you'd say, gets better with each repeated listen. And I mean, I could see this being one of those albums that just, sticks with you all the way to the end of the year. And then suddenly it's high up on the end of your list without you even realizing that, it was gonna be there. It's an unassuming album, I guess you'd say. Like it kind of goes by before you know it, but then you're like, man, I need to listen to that again. And, just throw it back on. It's an easy reach type album. The level of quality in the songwriting, album art, production, hell, the whole package is incredibly high for an unsigned band. And then this is their debut. Nothing else is listed on Metallum as far as other bands that these guys play in or have played in. So if this is truly the first attempt at creating an album, I am more than a little impressed, because holy fuck, you don't usually get this level of quality until, a couple of years in of writing music and, realizing what works and what doesn't. When you first start out, and this is coming from being in a band myself, when you first start out, it really feels like you're
testing the waters.
Yeah, you're learning. And you think what sounds fantastic or whatever, and then, that's why a lot of these bands, when they go back to like their debut or their second album, they're always like, you know what, we need to re-record that, because, and they change it up a little bit and they make it better usually. And so this being as high quality as it is just really, really surprising for a debut album.
No, I completely agree. Honestly, the first time I heard it, it was one of those that I instantly knew was going to be a pick for you, just because it's so far into your wheelhouse. Like, the thrashy parts they're exactly what you love, exactly what you talk about all the time. I mean, the riffs are killer in this thing from beginning to end. It does feel like a much more seasoned band than, this being their first offering. And I was really impressed with it as well. I like this one a lot. I probably listened to it 6 or 7 times. It was definitely going to be an honorable mention for me if it didn't end up being a pick for you. But like I said, I was fairly certain it was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, the first time I heard it, I was like, man, this is going to be up there. This is definitely going to be up there. So,
all right. Let's go and play the track. It's Death Reapers off of their album Thirst for Chaos. And the track we're playing is called Enemy.
man,
that's such a good song.
When that riff kicks in at the 1 minute mark, oh fuck, that is just like, yeah.
Yeah, and I will say, I'm pretty sure this is one of those that's a really good representation of the full album. So if you guys like that track, you'll probably like everything on the album too.
Yeah. Definitely agree.
So moving on to my first pick of the episode, the band Refusal put out an album called Venomous Human Concept. This is death metal from Finland, their third full-length album since 2008. All of their albums are kind of about society and politics and not, bowing down to the man sort of thing. This is a really challenging death metal album. A lot of the songs feel similar in that they are very old school driven, but there's a lot of variety the deeper you get into it. It's one of those albums that really rewards repeated listens. The more you hear it, the more you start to appreciate all the little things in the album. And it was actually a really hard album to choose just one song to represent, because while the old school death metal portions do feel very similar, it feels like a Refusal album. It feels like just them being them. But those little flourishes that add little technical elements or little progressive elements or just a little bit of Blackened section here or there, or just more melody, make each song feel truly unique and special. And it's not really an easy album to say, here's one song and this is representative of it, but I had to pick one for the show, so I did pick one. And the track that I picked is Dehumanize, probably because it feels like two incredible songs merged together. If you listen to it, you'll hear that it's very aggressive, and then there's like this moment of peace that happens somewhere towards the middle where it gets slower and a little bit more melodic and it breathes, and then it comes back in with this crazy aggression. And while lyrically it continues on with the same story and themes that were in the first half of the track, it does sound a little bit different. Like they've added in some different riffs and it feels like a different song, even though it's still the same song continuing. So I really appreciated that. If you like this, I think you should check out the whole album. Although I will tell you that not every song is going to sound like this.
This album for me, when I first heard the album the very first time, I was like, man, this is pretty good. And so it made my initial cut, and pretty easily so. And then my second round of cuts, it made the cut again. And then, the second time through, I listened to it and I was like, man, this is really good. And then I think it was the third or fourth time that I listened to it, it just opened up. Mm-hmm. And I was like, fuck me running. If you would not have made it a pick, I was going to make it a pick. This was super close to being a pick for me. And yeah, it is going to sound like a bit of hyperbole here, but as it stands right now, this is my favorite death metal album of the year.
Oh, wow.
I really like this fucking album.
That's wild.
And it's just, the repeated listens, it just kept going and kept going. I was like, fuck me, this is good. And I just couldn't get enough of it. I just really like this album. And I'm not the biggest death metal guy. I like mellow death way more than I like regular death metal, but this is something special. This is a really good album.
It's challenging and it's complex in a good way. Mm-hmm.
But man, when it unlocks, it really, really unlocks.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And this was my most listened to album from this cycle for sure. I played this at least once a day, so I've probably gotten 15 to 20 listens out of it. And it just keeps getting better and better, but it is one of those albums where like the sum is greater than the parts. So listening to it as a full package, like even though it's not super emotionally driven or anything like that, it does just kind of unlock slowly as you repeatedly hear it. And once it does unlock, it's really excellent. So
I would even say if you're listening to the show and you even just slightly like this song, give the album a chance, because like Justin's saying that each of these songs are, they're not similar to each other. So there might be something that really triggers something for you on another track. It's kind of hard to say, but it's a fucking banger. So, yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and play the track. Again, this is Refusal off of their album Venomous Human Concept. And the track that I picked is Dehumanize.
Force the world of the grave, if to waste
God, I love that song.
I think in my notes, it got like a 9.2, my track-by-track ratings on it. And then the track-by-track ratings are just a, guide for me. And because, obviously things change the more you listen to something. But this album, I could see this moving even higher than a 9.2.
Yeah, I mean, we've done our top 10 lists for the purpose of this show, but I do have a section kind of towards the end of that where I'm going to just talk about all the things that were very close to being in my top 10, or at least give a list of them. Refusal's in that list. It's definitely in my top 20 to 25 at this moment, which is, a testament to being a great album. I don't know if I would call it my favorite death metal album of the year. That's extremely high praise from Christian, but it is definitely among that list. So it's great.
If it's not, it's probably pretty fucking close.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on then.
Yep. I have the band Lacabra, and this here's a self-titled album, so it's also just titled Lacabra. We have melodic progressive death metal, I guess.
I have it as blackened progressive death metal with groove elements.
Yeah. It kind of goes into a lot of different places. So, and they're from Seattle. This is their debut. They're on M Theory Audio for the record company, which is one that I'd never heard of before. The track that I picked is Devil's Mechanic. It was almost kind of funny because they also have a track on their album called Enemy, and that was almost going to be the track, and I was like, that's too much on the nose. I better pick a different one. Plus, I actually kind of like Devil's Mechanic a little bit better. It's a little bit catchier. And, after 36 episodes, I'm all about the riff. Killer leads as well, but this song is all about the riff. This is the riff. And that's exactly why this one here was picked. Now, I grew up in an era where you may not put out your debut for half a decade or more, if ever. And even then, debuts for the most part were the albums that showed promise, but they usually felt like a first attempt. Even after years of working on songs before recording, what's coming out now feels like bands' fourth or fifth albums. And, I don't think I'm going on too far of a tangent there to say that, but the level of debut albums, the level of quality in these debut albums is just stunningly good.
No, I 100% agree. And, honestly, I think it's probably, it's like some kind of weird impact from all of these other bands just putting out incredible albums. Like the last few years, so many bands have put out amazing albums. Like I honestly could have made a top 100 list from last year and still had 50 or 60 bands left over that didn't have an album on it that I would have considered putting on it. And so there's so much to be inspired from that other bands are doing. And I feel like all these other bands, these new bands, back in the day in the 80s, 90s, like you had a few CDs. If you were a huge metalhead, you had 20 or 30 CDs and you kind of based your inspiration about the music on the ones you had heard, Now you have Spotify and you can hear hundreds and hundreds of amazing albums and discover new stuff every single week. So of course, you're going to learn what works better, easier, and faster because you're hearing what works for other bands. It's just like with podcasting. Like I listened to podcasts for like 10 years before I started doing it myself. And so I went into it already with an idea of what works and what doesn't work. And you hear a lot of first-time podcasters, which I'm kind of bringing up because I was at a comic convention this past week and I heard a bunch of new podcasters, new people that haven't really put in the time to develop their ear and learn how to talk, in this sort of setting, struggle with it because they're not used to it. But then the people that are veterans that have been doing it for a long time or were massive fans before they began, they're obviously coming in with an advantage. And I think these debut albums from these bands are kind of seeing the same kind of effect. They're getting a lot of exposure to great music that's not limited at all, except by what time they have to listen to it. And it's influencing the music that they're releasing too, because it's just of a higher quality. Like they have a much better ear and they're much more capable of saying, yes, this sounds good. Yes, people will appreciate this, than just writing something and putting it out.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how we keep talking over and over again, how, the barrier to entry is so low now. When you can make an incredible sounding album in your living room, that cuts a lot of the bullshit out of it.
Plus, you have the community, like, the metal community, as we've seen, because we've interviewed a lot of bands, and they're all very friendly with each other. They try to schedule tours together. A lot of the bands we like tour together. I'm sure that they're sending their albums back and forth to each other as they're working on them and saying, hey, what do you think of this? Where could I improve? So they get feedback from their, contemporaries. And it's a lot easier to do that nowadays than it used to be. So even if this might be a debut, I'm sure that whoever is behind Lacabra knows some people that are more successful or at least more established that he was able to send it to and get feedback on and help him improve the album. Like, the internet can be a great thing.
Yeah.
Can also be terrible.
I would even go so far as to, back in the day, back in the 80s and, before the advent of the internet and being able to record stuff in your living room or whatever, you had an A&R guy working for a record company who would go to show, and it would be up to him whether this band is going to get a record deal or not. This one guy. Yeah. And that's terrible.
Music's subjective.
This
like,
guy
one person's taste might not be the same as everybody else's. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that listen to this show that, mainly just like Justin's picks, or like, Jesus Christ, that Christian guy has way too many fucking thrash metal albums. I don't know. But, like we say, it's subjective. So, it is what it is. And I think back in that day, it's just one guy. And now you can put it out there and you can get instantaneous feedback almost from a bunch of people, whether good or bad. I mean, I'm sure on the internet you'll get way more bad than good, but, that's just the nature of how it is. But if you can sort through all that, you can take a lot of that and, take it even further. And, I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but, it is an interesting thought experiment. Are bands today simply more polished or talented? I don't have the answer, but what I do know is this album fucking smokes. That's all you got to know.
I honestly feel like if you and I agree on an album, it's a pretty good indicator, that it's going to be at least a 7 out of 10 for most people. That if they're already listening to the Harsh Vocals podcast, they have some appreciation for extreme metal. And if it's a pick, it's at least a 7 out of 10, regardless of who's listening. Yep. But yeah, Lacabra, absolutely killer debut. I want to hear more, to be honest. I tried to figure out what Lacabra means. I was digging around trying to find the name. Sometimes people pull that stuff from demonology or something like that. I couldn't find anything. The only thing I found was a Danish coffee company that had the same name, and I'm pretty sure that's not where it came from. So if anybody knows...
That'd be awesome if they did. It's like, we just really like coffee.
Where Lacabra came from, we'd like to know.
It's coffee from hell!
That's like that Death Clock episode. Do you folks like coffee?
How awesome would it be if that was the inspiration?
I mean, it could
They watched fucking Death Clock, and they're like, you know what? We should name our fucking band after a coffee company. That'd be fucking... I'm just really glad they didn't go with Maxwell House.
Yeah.
So that would have been a little weird.
All right, well, let's go ahead and play the track. Again, this is Lacabra off of their album Lacabra, and the track that we're going to play is called Devil's Mechanic. Hope you enjoy it.
is so fucking good. I mean, that whole album is really fucking good. I mean, it's another one that puts a smile on your face when you listen to it, too. It has that catchiness element to it, you know, so, yeah, it's just a really good album.
Yeah, if it hadn't been a pick for you, it definitely would have been in contention as a third pick for me. At the very least, it would have been an honorable mention. But I'm glad you picked it. It was definitely one of the strongest options from this past 2 weeks. So moving on, my next pick is the band Nightbearer. They put out an album called Defiance. This is death metal with a lot of melody and atmosphere and kind of an epic scope around it. Their third full-length album since 2017. Each of their albums kind of focuses on a particular book series or a particular author. One of their albums is all about Tolkien's work. One of their albums is all about Lovecraft. This particular album focuses on the His Dark Materials trilogy from Philip Pullman. I don't know if you've ever read that, Christian, but it's full of like atheist and non-Christian propaganda.
I think Netflix has don't they have in their His Dark Materials TV show or something?
Yeah, they started doing one, but they pulled out all of the metaphors and all of the anti-Christian and anti-God stuff. They just took the baseline of the fantasy story and included it and took out all of what he was actually trying to say in his story.
Oh, Lordy, you don't want to offend the Christians.
Yeah. So, but, you know, aside from the concept for the album, musically, this is just stellar. Like, there is some epic, incredible guitar work on this album. It's full of melody. It really makes you feel like you're listening to something from, you know, the cosmos in places. For me, it almost made me want to go back and revisit rereading those stories, too. You get that whole vibe that feels parallel to those books, because I did read those, 5 or 6 years ago. And I really see what they were trying to accomplish with this. And I feel like it is a very good musical adaptation of those stories. What did you think of this one, Christian?
I think I might have to read the books because I thought this had a little bit of bloat, but I still liked it. It would have been an honorable mention for me. But one thing that I will say, man, that album art, fucking fantastic. I absolutely positively love that album art. That's the very first thing that grabbed me. And I don't know anything about His Dark Materials. I don't know the story. I don't know anything about it. So maybe that's why it didn't really grab me the way it grabbed you. I thought some of the songs were a little bit too long. They could have been edited down a little bit.
But they've got that atmospheric, tagline to their music, and atmospheric music typically does feel a little bit more explorative and, bloated, if you will.
Yeah, it'll have those 30 seconds of just like harp strings or some shit for, a lot of that, the atmospheric stuff. It's almost like some bands try a little too hard to make it atmospheric, but
yeah, your taste.
I dug it.
It's definitely a subjective thing with the atmosphere building, but I feel like it worked really well here. And lyrically, everything was kind of in line with the story. And it just kept pulling me back and like bringing up flashes of memory of like how I envisioned the story playing out in my head. I mean, I watched the TV show series too. I didn't really like it that much. They changed so many things, but I still have my mental interpretation of the book, and this really evoked a lot of that. So it was cool to kind of revisit that, through a completely different medium. But I think even if you never read the books, you'll find a lot to appreciate. Maybe you will take some of the explorative atmospheric stuff as bloat like Christian did. But if you remove those few 20 seconds of extraneous stuff, at its core, it's just a very good melodic death metal album.
Yeah, and I think if I knew the background of it a little bit more, I think I'd probably like it more too. So, anything that you already understand what they're singing about or what their inspiration is, definitely helps when you're listening to an album. So, I mean, that's one of the very first things that I absolutely positively loved about Blind Guardian's Nightfall and Middle Earth is because I knew the story. So, yeah, I knew everybody that's in it, what he's talking about, all that other stuff. So it made it more than just, a record just that I was listening to.
And I mean, like even last episodes, we were both ranting about Puterion's latest album, Mountains of Madness. Same thing happened with that because I'm a huge Lovecraft fan and it really evoked those ideas as I was listening to it. So yeah, it definitely falls into that same kind of vein. But I would encourage you to check out His Dark Materials story if you've never read it, Christian. The writing's really good, and I know you like fantasy books, and you're also, a very big atheist, so I think it would, be in your wheelhouse for sure.
Well, now that I know it's an atheist book, I might read it just for that.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and play the track. Again, this is Night Bearer off of their album Defiance, and the track that I chose is called Reign Supreme. I actually really like those epic atmospheric parts. It just feels so majestic, and it feels like it fits into the story. And
I mean, it feels big. It feels.
It does. It feels
like
very
expansive,
big.
or honestly, I think that's what I really like about the black metal bands doing the space theme stuff, like Vorga does and stuff. I think that's what I really dig about that, is because number one, you're leaving the religious shit behind. Because, I mean, we've had plenty of black metal albums talking about religion. You know, we can move on to something else. Not saying you should ignore it completely, but, you know, moving further out is probably a good thing. And, you know, the space theme, I'm a big fan of sci-fi stuff. So, yeah, that direction really works for me.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on. The next track is from your favorite album of the past 2 weeks.
Yep. We have the band View from the Soyuz.
Soyuz? I think it's Soyuz.
Soyuz?
It's a Russian word.
Yeah, I think it's their space station or something.
It's not the space station, but it's like one of their spacecraft types. Yeah, but I mean, it essentially means like, you know, looking at Earth from space, you know, watching it from the window. They just chose a Russian spacecraft instead of a Japanese one for some reason. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess. So the album is called Ubiquitous. We have Melodeath with a little bit of metalcore in there. They're from Tokyo. They're an unsigned band again. This is a debut album again. Jesus Christ. Just reiterate everything I just said in the first 30 minutes of this episode. That all applies to this band too. Now, info on Asian bands can really be hit or miss, maybe because of the language barrier, I don't know, and there are some tracks here that say Reloaded in parentheses in the title. So I'm not sure if these have been released before and reworked and put on this official debut. Maybe they were singles, I don't know, but whatever the case, I probably spun this album at least 30, maybe 40 times this week. This is how you mix a bit of metalcore into your sound without the song sounding samey. Because none of these songs sound samey, and, you know, a lot of the metalcore and a lot of the issues that I have with metalcore are that, you know, it feels like, well, here's where you put the breakdown. And it's always, oh, you got to have that breakdown. And and it's usually 3/4 of the way through the song, and it's in the same spot, and, you know, it's let in. As soon as they come out of that breakdown, it seems like they have some like small atmospheric bit or whatever, and maybe some clean singing.
It's just formulaic usually.
Yeah, it's formulaic. And so I'm not a fan of that, but each song sounds definitely different. So, you know, not that these girls, I think there's a couple of girls from the pictures. I mean, I don't know. They might be girls. I don't know. These girls sound anything like Children of Bodom, but there's something about them that reminds me of Children of Bodom. You know, I think it's something in the way
there are certain songs that I hear it too. Like just the style of fast riffing that they do in certain songs is very reminiscent of like early Children of Bodom. I hear that too, but it's not in every song. It's maybe like 3 of the 10 songs on the album. Yeah. The other thing about metalcore is the style of clean singing that they use a lot. And there's definitely more of that in this than there is like the breakdowns. I would say I liked 80% of the songs. There were songs on here that I thought were brilliant. And then there were some that I felt like the clean singing didn't really work for me personally, but I could totally see it working for other people. It's
I had no problem with it,
but like you said, it's an incredible debut. And, you know, it is really hard with the Japanese bands because like, we'll hear a few a year that are just amazing, and it's almost impossible to find any information about them.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes like it goes on down the road and then you find out that, oh, fuck, that wasn't a real band. You're just like, what? Like, you're just, oh, what do you mean it wasn't a real band? It was like some sort of fucking video game thing or something. That happened to me back in the day quite a bit, and I was always surprised by that. But, you know, it's, you know, in Japan, things are just a little bit different. So
yeah. This is really good. I enjoyed most of it. And I think if people like this song, they'll like the whole album for the most part.
It's certainly catchy. So, and I mean, the whole album is catchy. So, yeah, it's an easy album to like. So.
Yeah. Again, your mileage may vary with the clean singing, but otherwise, I think you'll dig it. All right, let's go and play the track. This is View from the Soyuz, their album Ubiquitous, and the track that Christian picked is called Black Roses.
That was great. That was awesome. I really like that album. And I mean, it's one of those that after you get done, you kind of, I'll just throw it back on. You know, like, is it super deep or like emotional or anything like that? No, not at all. But it's just a good time.
It's almost like a comfort album, you know?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I probably only listened to it eight or nine times, you know, but I knew you were going to pick it from the minute you first heard it because you were raving about it. So I didn't devote as much time to it as I did some of the others. But eight or nine listens, I get what you were saying. It's definitely like a easy, relaxing, fun, enjoyable album that you can just kind of throw on when you're tired of listening to the heavier stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to my final pick. This is the band Outer Gods. They put out an album called Dethroned and Devoured. This is black metal / death metal / grindcore from the UK. Their second full-length album since 2021. These guys are on Prosthetic Records. They're heavily inspired by Lovecraft, as I'm sure you can imagine, by Outer Gods being their name. I'm actually just going to read what they have as their own description on Bandcamp because I couldn't phrase this better myself if I tried. Outer Gods, they're a crushing statement of sonic extremity, merging blackened death metal with chaotic industrial textures to create an atmosphere that's as oppressive as it is captivating. The album rips through convention with dissonant riffs, relentless drumming, and guttural vocals that sound like they're echoing from some forgotten abyss. There's an unrelenting sense of madness throughout the record, as if the band is channeling something ancient and malevolent with each track. It's a visceral experience, dense, abrasive, and unflinchingly dark, that challenges the listener to confront a world where all order has collapsed.
There you go.
That's a great fucking description.
Yeah, there you go.
And the album...
Better than, hey, check out these riffs.
Right. You know, the album really does kind of live up to what they've written there. It is an unrelenting, aggressive, dark, and heavy, chaotic album. As I've talked about before, I love chaos in my music, and you don't really get a whole lot of it. I think the last album that really impressed me with chaotic kind of music was Null last year. Aranzi Pazuzu put out an album. Yeah, Aranzi Pazuzu put out a pretty chaotic album that was pretty great last year too, but this feels similar. It's not quite as wild and unpredictable, but it's full of madness in the best way possible. I really love this. I couldn't get enough of it. I listened to it 25 or 30 times, somewhere in there, over the past 2 weeks. It's catchy. It's full of groove. It's full of, great riffs, excellent vocals, tight songs. There's no bloat. Quite frankly, I just loved it. So,
I mean, the thing that really impressed me is that, number one, they can label whatever genres they want, but they're probably going into 8 or 9 different genres on this album. It's all over the place. And I'm super impressed in how they write music and stay within those genres and make it cohesive. That is super, super impressive. And, again, you're just talking the level of talent in these bands every single week, every single time I make my playlist, I'm just constantly like, Jesus Christ, the metal is so good right now.
Yeah.
You're just shocked by it. And again, me being an old guy and a lot of the guys in my era growing up in the 80s and shit, they tend to, fucking nothing beats Metallica, nothing beats Megadeth. And, it's like, dude, I would easily say that the music nowadays is infinitely better than what was coming out in the 80s. There was definitely some good shit. I think overall, the music is better today than it's ever been. It's just crazy how talented people are out there.
Yeah. No, I mean, if we had access to all the same kind of resources back then, but there was no music other than what came out pretty much all through the 80s, 90s, maybe even the 2000s, I would be able to make a top 25 list and not really have a lot of albums left over, for consideration. There was 10 to 25 amazing albums that came out every year. Absolutely. But there weren't 200. There weren't 200 amazing albums that came out like last year. We live in a time where there's just a plethora of amazing stuff. And every single week, every single episode, I'm just amazed by it. I'm in awe of all these musicians and how talented everybody seems to be. Yeah, of course there are bands that still suck. Of course there are albums that come out that aren't good. But the vast majority are good to better. And it's so cool to be doing this in this time. And I love it.
And I mean, honestly, that's why this show exists. Yeah. Because there is so much stuff out there, and there is so much stuff that would easily be bypassed if somebody doesn't say something to you, or unless you're into doing what me and Justin do, where
most people don't have the time.
Playlist of 100 albums a week.
Even our friends that do the same thing, even our friends that are YouTubers or podcasters that write about stuff and promote stuff, they don't have the time to listen to what we listen to. And I mean, I know Christian and I are insane for doing it, but every time we post about an album or talk about an album on social media or review it on the show, I always get at least one comment from somebody about that album saying, "Oh man, I discovered this because of you, and it's fucking awesome, and I bought the vinyl or I bought the tape." And every single time I hear that feedback, it just makes me happy and wants me to makes me want to continue doing this, because the fact that people are listening and discovering these bands because of us just makes it all worthwhile. So hopefully that continues. We really appreciate all of you that do listen and support us, especially those of you that go out and support the bands as well, because really without them, there'd be no reason behind any of this. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to the bands for making great music. Thanks for our audience for checking out and listening to what we have to say. And we'll keep doing it as long as you guys do. So anyways, let's go ahead and play the track. We got off on a bit of a tangent there, as usual. Again, this is Outer Gods off of their album Dethroned and Devoured, and the track that I picked to play is called The Sleepless Malice. That
so
song
damn good.
is so fucking good. And what a song title, too. You know,
oh, yeah.
Every single song title on this album is just incredible.
I love it when a band really puts in that type of work. You know?
Yeah, and you can tell they did. You know, conceptually, the whole thing is a nice little package. And even though they don't explicitly say they're Lovecraftian, outer gods are, you know, the gods from the Cthulhu mythos. And then all of these song titles sort of fit into, you know, that ideology. I love it. I love Lovecraftian inspired stuff. This is so good for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for our picks. Let's run through our honorable mentions somewhat quick because we still got to talk about our best of list. So, Christian, what were your honorable mentions for this past 2 weeks?
All right. I'll try and go a little bit quicker than I usually do. We have the band Aeon Winds, An Ode to the Mountains. We have Symphonic Black Metal. This is their 4th album off of Folter Records. If you like limbonic art, maybe early Demu, Karash Angren, maybe a little bit of Old Man's Child, you'll like this. I have to say, this is one of those albums that one time I listened to it and I absolutely positively love it. The next time I listen to it, I'm just kind of like, all right, that's kind of meh. And then the next time I like it again, and then to this very moment, I don't really know if I like this album or not.
I had the exact same
sometimes,
experience.
So, hey, maybe it, you know, I
think it's a mood album. I think it's a mood album. Like, if you're in the right headspace for it, it's awesome. And if you're not, it's just kind of like background noise. But it is very technically very good. But I completely agree with you. I couldn't figure out exactly how I felt about it.
Yep. Then we have the band Bear Mace. Great name. Slaves of the Wolf. We have death metal, and this is their 3rd album from Redefining Darkness. Fantastic label. For fans of Bolt Thrower, Obituary, Benediction, this is just old school death metal. This is a really good album. Then we have Kneel Before the Death, and the album is self-titled, so Kneel Before the Death. We have Symphonic Deathcore, debut album. I'm going to butcher this. Ranka Kustanis is the record label. Now, I'd never heard of them, so I actually just looked it up. And they also have the band Kalma, you know, that Children of Bodom type band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like them a lot, too. And the band ARG. Both of those bands are signed to that label, so they're a legit label. This is for fans of Carnifex or Flesh God Apocalypse, Shadow of Intent. And I will say, if you check out this album, check it out on headphones first. I think it's infinitely better on headphones than it is, you know, just listening to it off of your stereo. You'll get more out of it.
You were kind of raving about this album in the beginning, and I thought it was going to end up being a pick for you. I listened to it 2 or 3 times. It's an album that, like, you get fatigued listening to about 80% through because so many of the songs sound similar. And, like, it's very aggressive, but it does scratch that symphonic itch that we both kind of had for the last couple of years. I liked it. You just get tired of it because of the similarity in the tracks, I think. Yeah. If they were a little bit more diverse, I think it would be way better. But they've got a lot of potential. I'm excited to see what they do with their next album.
Yeah, and like I said, it sounds way better on headphones, like a good set of headphones, because you'll pick more of those symphonic elements out, which I think helps it. But whatever. Next, we have Volbeat, and most people already know who these guys are. They've gotten a lot bigger than I ever thought they'd get. But the album is God of Angels Trust. We have heavy groove metal from Copenhagen, Denmark, their 9th album from Vertigo Records. And this is for fans of any popular, quote, metal band out right now. If you like any sort of popular metal, you're going to probably like these guys. Then we have Byzantine. The album is called Harbingers. We have groove/thrash metal from Charleston, West Virginia. This is their 7th album. They're on Metal Blade Records. And if you're a fan of Lamb of God, Darkane, or Gojira, you're probably going to like this. One thing that I will say, I did really like this album, but man, if they would just ditch the clean singing and just stick with the harsh, they would be so much better off because their cleans are not good.
I think that's true for like a lot of bands out there.
Yeah, but you know, I was just constantly wishing that they would just stop with the cleans. I didn't like them. So, but I could see other people that don't have an issue with, you know, any sort of clean vocals. This will probably work for you. Then I came across a band, Insania, The Great Apocalypse. This is power metal from Stockholm, Sweden. Their 6th album. They're on Frontiers Music. if you're a fan of Halloween, Angra, Edguy, this is really good. It's super catchy power metal, very fast, very aggressive. As aggressive as power metal can be, but a fantastic album. I really enjoyed this one. Then I came across a band called Phantomy, like Phantom with a Y at the end. The album is called From the Wild. We have just straight up heavy metal from Iisalmi, Finland. This is their debut album on Inverse Records. This is for fans of that old 80s metal sound before stuff got overproduced and ballads got on every single album, like 82, 83, 84, right in that area, the straight heavy metal bands that were coming out at that time. This is exactly that. I will say the vocals might challenge some people because they have a little bit of screechiness to them, which, I mean, if you like ultra clean, you're not going to like it. And if you like harsh vocals, this might just, be one of those like nails on a chalkboard kind of thing for you. But I dug it. Then the band Devouring Famine, the album called Chains, Slavery, Filth. This is black metal from California. It just says California, it doesn't say a city or anything. This is their 5th album, and they're unsigned. And I came upon this really late. And honestly, I think if I would have came upon it earlier, it might have been a pick for me, because this is for fans of, like, if you mixed Immortal, Sidon, maybe a little bit of Spectral Wound, a little bit of Lamp of Murmur, put them all in a blender. That's what these guys sound like. And to me, that's like catnip. So I was completely in.
I haven't heard this one yet. If I I need to check it out. We talked about this right before the show. Yeah. I somehow missed this one.
Oh, yeah. I would be shocked if you don't like this. Then finally, we have the band Silius, Beneath the Flesh. This is thrash metal from Landeck, Australia. This is their 3rd album from Running Wild Productions. And if you like Exhorter or Prong, both with just a slight bit of Pantera added to them, that groove element that Pantera had, you add that into Exhorter or Prong, you're going to get really close to what these guys sound like. I would say, to me, about 80% of the album was really good. There's some bloat on here, but I still dug it. I definitely thought it was worthy of an honorable mention. And that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, well, moving on to mine. Yeah. Moving on to mine.
Plenty.
First up, we have the band Austere. They put out an album called The Stillness of Dissolution. This is depressive, suicidal black metal from Australia. Their 5th full-length album since 2007. I've been a big fan of Austere forever. I loved their last 2 albums. I was really kind of hoping for more of the same with this one, but it's kind of a weird deviation from previous albums. Like, there's a lot more clean singing. There's a lot more...
It's a lot slower.
It's a lot slower, but there's also like a lot more of kind of soft rock riffs built in, more so than aggression. And so while I did like most of the album, there were pieces of it that just didn't quite click with me the way that previous ones have. So that's why it's an honorable mention instead of a pick. But if you like Austere, I still highly recommend checking it out.
I will say about this album, I really dug this album, but it feels very introspective. Like maybe some of the guys are dealing with something. I don't know, but very introspective. It's one of those albums that I think will be way better on vinyl. Mm-hmm. If you could, you have to concentrate when listening to this. This isn't one that you can just put on in the background because it'll be over and you won't remember anything about it. You have to actively listen to it. But I dug it. I definitely dug it.
So moving on, Diabolish's work. They're death/thrash metal from Germany. This is their 2nd full-length album since 2020. Their name actually translates to Devil's Work. This is a really odd and interesting death metal album. Every single track... Actually,
just so you know, Diabolish's VAC is not Devil's Work. It's diabolical work. Devil in German is Teufel.
According to Metallum, that's what it translates to, but I'll trust you over Metallum here. Sometimes Metallum gets it wrong, but
I dug this album, so I
dug this one a lot. So. This was almost a pick for me. It was very close to being. There's a lot of like really interesting and almost innovative things they do in each track, and no 2 tracks sound the same. If you like death and thrash as a mixture, I highly recommend checking this out because you'll hear some things you never heard before in several of the songs. It's just a little inconsistent because of their experimentation, I think. Mm-hmm. And if they could figure out how to kind of make that experimentation and the consistency coexist, I think these guys are right on the verge of something just brilliant. but it's still really good as it is. So highly recommend checking that out. Next is the band Wrath of Belial. They put out an album called Embers of Dead Empires. This is technical and melodic death and thrash metal from Denmark, their second full-length album since 2015. These guys aren't doing anything terribly innovative, but they're doing it very well. Just really straightforward, good technical melodeath with some thrash elements. Next is the band Cromlech. They put out an album called Of Owls and Eels. This is black metal from Germany, their second full-length album since 1994.
Jesus, I didn't realize they were around that long.
Yeah, so apparently what happened is the guy, because this is a solo project of a guy named Impurus, he started the project in 1994, wrote a bunch of songs, never released them. Then his other band took off. He came back to this one in 2021, re-recorded everything that he had originally done back in 1994, and then continued on and released his second album. It's pretty good. It's got some really interesting ideas in it. It's a little bit bloated in places, but I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. If you're looking for kind of a straightforward black metal album with a little bit of melody, can't really go wrong with it. I will say, though, if you're trying to look them up on Metallum, there's 18 other bands named Cromlech, so make sure you find the right one. Next is the band Hatred Inherit. They put out an album called Void. This is death metal from Germany, their second full-length album since 2012. This is what I would classify as fun death metal. It's not as succinct as it could be. There are some tracks that have a little bit too much solo guitar work and stuff where it just gets a little bit bloated. But at its core, it's very fun, straightforward death metal. So if you like fun death metal, I highly recommend checking it out. And then the last album that I have in my honorable mentions is Death Goat. They put out an album called Dragged into Realms Below. This is death metal from Finland, their second full-length album since 2015. This was honestly like neck and neck with the Nightbearer album for me. It almost ended up being a pick. So this was my fourth favorite album of the cycle. This is really great, straightforward death metal. It has some melody. It's kind of in the Swedish death metal realm, even though it's from Finland. So if you like Swedish death, I think you'll dig this a lot. Personally, that's kind of where my ear favors death metal. So I really enjoyed this. I can't really say much more than that because it's really just great riffs. And if you like great riffs, you'll like Death Goat. So check it out. And that does it for my honorable mentions. So let's go ahead and move into our topic, which for this episode is going to be the best of 2025 so far. So Christian and I are each going to talk about our current top 10 lists. And I think we'll start with number 10 and just work our way forward, alternating. So right. I'll let you go first, Christian.
All right. My number 10 is Behemoth, the Shit of God.
Wow.
I'd almost written this band off after 2022's Opus Contra, not Varam, as it just felt like Nurgle had, taken this anti-religion shtick about as far as he could. And I understand why he does what he does. Poland is, like we've mentioned before on the show, he's been pulled into blasphemy court. So I understand why he gets upset about religion and why that's his focus. I get it. But, we've had how many albums now talking about, how shitty God is and how bullshit religion is. We kind of get it. But, and I kind of thought that he'd just taken this as far as he could. But then this was released, and it is easily his best output since The Satanist.
I agree.
And it has a few issues, but overall, this is, simply a fantastic album. So that's why it's my number 10. And who knows, it might still move up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I like that one a lot and revisit it often. I think that there are so many other bands doing more innovative things than Behemoth and other bands that I return to more often than that album. So, I mean, it's not in my top 10. It's probably not even in my top 20, but it's an excellent album. It's definitely my top 30 for the year. Where it will end up, in my final list at the end, I don't know. But I agree with everything you said. It is the best Behemoth album to come out since The Satanist. It's obviously a return to form musically, vocally. Lyrically, it's kind of the same. It's almost even a little more comical because, you read some of the lyrics and they're just so on the nose with the anti-God stuff, but it's still really good. Yeah. And when you find out that, the shit of God is actually a famous poem and, all the lyrics were sourced off that, it kind of changes the perspective a little bit, but most people don't know that. They just assume it's Nurgle trying to be edgy still.
Yeah. I can see that.
All right, well, my number 10 is Labyrinthus Stellarum, Rift in Reality, atmospheric black metal from the Ukraine. Their third full-length album in 3 years, and their best album to date. These guys are young. I think the oldest one in the band is 22 or 23 now, and the youngest one is 19 or 20. They live in Ukraine, which is a war-torn country. It's very hard to do anything, I'd imagine, there, let alone record music and put it out, especially at the level of quality that this is. This thing is filled with infectious riffs and groove, cosmic atmospheric building, which I love. I can't get enough of this album. I've been listening to it on repeat since it dropped, and honestly, I go back and listen to their previous 2 albums fairly regularly too. Thoroughly impressed with these guys. They've chosen a completely unique route in not only black metal, but in cosmic black metal. Everything is very synth-driven, keyboard-driven, which you don't really hear a lot of in this style of music. And they made it their own. It's very unique, very specific to them, and it resonates with me on a real deep level. So I love this album. Do you have this one on your list?
I do not have this one on my list. It'd probably be about 16 or 17 maybe. But I would say I think this is their best out of the 3. The best album. It's the most cohesive, I think. Not saying the others weren't, but this one here is just more so.
It's more aggressive, really too. The other 2 felt more...
And I think that helps.
Yeah, the other 2 definitely felt more like atmospheric, like you were floating through space and doing stuff. This one has more like intent behind it. It's more aggressive. It's like a lot of the songs are just very abrasive and aggressive in a way that you didn't really get on the previous albums. And I like that little bit of edge that they sort of added to the sound. It's fantastic. I can't get enough of it.
Alrighty, well, my number 9 is, I think people may know about this one. It's Puterion, Mountains of Madness. I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be higher up on yours. This is an album, from our most recent episode, and I debated on adding it, as I haven't spent as much time with this, but the time that I have spent makes me realize this will absolutely be somewhere in my top 30 by the end of the year. There's no way around it. This is a fantastic album from start to finish. I would be absolutely shocked if it doesn't end up in my top 20. I mean, the second half of the year would have to be pretty damn spectacular to knock this out of there. But I mean, who knows? I've been surprised before, but for an album to reach my top 10 after I've only listened to it for 3-4 weeks, that kind of just says everything you need to know about its quality. It's a fantastic record.
Yeah, that's actually my number 3 album currently, and it's definitely my most listened to album so far this year. I'm upwards of 100 listens for sure. With that album, I literally cannot get enough of it, and it never gets old. Every time I hear it, I hear new things to appreciate. It is really a masterpiece of Swedish death metal, which as I just mentioned, is my preferred leaning in the death metal sound. And, having the Lovecraftian stuff on top of it and being such a fan of the Mountains of Madness storyline and having all of that work out musically and sonically just adds so much more to it. Produced by Dan Swano, so the production is just like immaculate. Yep. It really doesn't get a whole lot better. I keep thinking, is this going to end up as my album of the year? In terms of listens, it probably should be. In terms of, technicality and like what I love about the albums, it's going to be real close. I don't know. It's right now it's number 3 for me, but I could certainly see it overtaking my 1 and 2 if it continues to be listened to with the veracity that I have been up to this point. Because anytime I have free time or I don't have anything else to listen to, this is the album I listen to. It's so good. But moving on, my number 9, Elegion, The Ossuary Lens. This is technical / melodic death metal from Colorado. Their 7th full-length album since 2008, and the first one with the return of Ezra Haynes as the vocalist. I've loved Elegion for years, pretty much since Fragments of Form and Function came out. I've been a fan. I loved Ezra's cycle with the band, and then when he left, I loved everything that Riley did. Happy to have Ezra back, and he's doing some much more like old school style death metal vocals on this than he had ever done previously with Legion. You get a few little pieces of with like pig squeals. You get some like really, classic sounding death metal growls. And you also get some of the more, standardized technical melodic death metal stuff. Greg Burgess's guitar work, he's a master. I've always been a huge fan of his guitar work, because he's classically trained, and you get some of that neoclassical sort of stuff built into all of the songs that Allegiant puts out. The album feels cohesive. It's all the songs flow into each other. It's really just a beautiful album from beginning to end. It's a great album to sit down and listen to on record. It's a great album to have on while you're doing other things. There's really not a bad time to listen to it. It's quite frankly one of the best of the year, and I love it.
Yep. It's actually number 2 for me. And I mean, Allegiant they're a band that's a personal favorite of mine. I almost feel like every so often I become almost, this is going to sound weird, I almost become addicted to one of their albums. And this new one is just grabbed me from the very first listen. Everything about this album is just top notch. I thought they had reached a pinnacle with, 2022's Damnum. And then I heard this, and I swear they simply didn't just make a better album. They moved the goalposts altogether. I'm not sure if they will be able to beat, this album on their next one with just how good this is. But I sure as hell hope they do, as I didn't think beating Damnum was going to be possible. And yeah, this album's better than that.
That's kind of how it's been their entire career. It's like everyone that's come out, with the exception of Apoptosis, moved that goalpost. Yeah. Because Fragments for Form and Function was incredible. Proponents for Sentience was like so much better. Damnum was so much better. And now Ossuary Lens is like even better. Apoptosis was kind of a outlier because it's not even the same kind of music. And, of their albums, that's the only one that I'm not a massive fan of. But all their others, I absolutely love.
I mean, they definitely feel like a band that, we always say that a band that feels like they should be bigger than they really are.
100%.
And I mean, Allegiant is, in the metal realm, they're a pretty big band. A lot of people know who they are. But they should be known by people outside of metal fans. There's so much talent in that band.
Yeah. I agree. So what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Wormian, Immemorial Shrine. I'll just throw this out there. I think Antoine Schultes definitely knows how to write a top-tier, engaging, any sort of music, really. Between this and Inherits the Void, he's just kicking out some of the very best extreme metal out there. Plain and simple, this is the album that Catatonia had wished they had written. And I will die on that hill because I think that new Catatonia album is fucking terrible. And if you're looking for some death doom, super high quality, listen to Wormian. It's everything that you wish the Catatonia album would have been.
I'll agree with that wholeheartedly. Wormian ended up in my 11 through 20 bucket. Yeah. It's obviously one of the best albums that's come out this year. I just haven't listened to it as much as I've listened to my top 10, and that's why it's in that 11 to 20 bucket. But everything you're saying is 100% correct. I love Antoine's stuff. Inherits the Void has been in my top 10 2 years in a row. And Wormian, if I listen to it more throughout the end of the year, it certainly could be too. These are not final results. These are mid-year results. So we're still going to spend a lot of time with all these albums. So moving on to my number 8, this is the band Grab. They put out an album called Kremes. This is black metal from Germany. It's the one where all of the songs are based on fairy tales. This was a pick for me a few months ago, and I've been listening to it nonstop ever since. Honestly, for Father's Day, my wife asked me what I wanted, and I told her I wanted this album on vinyl, so that's what I got. I've already listened to it like 6 or 7 times on vinyl. It is even better on vinyl than it is on Spotify. We say that all the time, but this is one of those that really, if you sit down and devote your time to it, it just unfolds in a really magical way. This might be my favorite melodic black metal album of the year.
Really?
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful album. I really can't get enough of it. It's so good.
I should probably listen to that on vinyl because it didn't really grab me digitally. I mean, I like it, but it's not in my top 10, but I definitely liked it.
I mean, it's
just obviously not as much as you did, but
it's on Amazon, so you could just grab it on Amazon on vinyl. It's the black vinyl, so it's nothing special, but
all right. Yeah, I don't care about that.
I feel like once I heard it on a vinyl, it just pushed it through just a little bit more for me and really just made it even that much more appealing. So it's great.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, my number 7 is Cryptan. Violence, Our Power. You know, speaking of Catatonia, they have a former member of Catatonia in this band. Matthias Norman is the guy behind Cryptan, so hey, at least somebody is writing good music. So, I should quit shitting on Catatonia. This here is one of those albums that simply gets, again, better with each repeated listen. Beyond glad I ordered this on vinyl, as this is even better on that format. And you want a band that takes that late 90s black metal sound from Sweden, Finland, and Norway, but then just adds a little bit more of a modern twist, then this album is going to be for you. They have that base of 90s era black metal that a lot of us kind of grew up with to a certain extent, and it just modernizes it just a little bit. Better quality in the production, just adds a little bit more depth to it, I guess. And if that sounds remotely interesting, then yeah, Cryptan's going to be for you. And it's one of those albums that I'll forget about it every now and then I'll come across it and I'm like, fuck, I should listen to that. And I throw it on, I fully engage with it, and then, I'll forget about it for a little bit again. And then again, it just keeps coming back. So I figure that's a good sign.
Yeah, I really liked the album a whole lot when I first heard it, and it just didn't quite have the staying power of some other ones. It's probably in my top 30, but it's not one that I would have as high a ranking as you do. But it's still really good. Top 30 is, in a year where there's at least 200 amazing albums, top 30 is pretty good. So
yeah.
All right, moving on to my number 7, and this should come as a shock to absolutely no one. Harakiri for the Sky, Scorched Earth. Post-black metal from Austria. Their 6th full length since 2012 on AOP Records. I love Harakiri for the Sky. I love this album. It's full of powerful, emotionally driven songs. Post-black metal has always been one of my favorite genres, and honestly, the next 3 albums I'm going to talk about all fall into that subgenre. So, as much as I love Harakiri, I do think there were a couple that came out that were slightly better than this one in that genre, but I still love it, and I can't get enough of it, and I've listened to it on repeat since it came out. I saw them in concert this year, and they were incredible. I love Harakiri. I don't know what else to say.
Yep. Yeah, I really dug this album too, but I think it's in my 11 to 20 range, somewhere in there.
That's totally understandable. That's a pretty good rating.
Yeah. My number 6 is the band Sphere and their album Inferno. Easily one of the very best Polish death metal albums I've heard in quite some time. The guitar work on this, this is just straight death metal. This isn't, other genres mixed in. The guitar work on this is absolutely phenomenal. This is a lot more than just aggression, as you have equal parts brutal riffs with guttural vocals and atmospheric depth. Incredible production, plenty of tempo changes, fantastic melodic solos. It really doesn't get a whole lot better than this. This album goes a lot of different places, and every place it goes, it crushes. This could very well move up further as the year goes by, because I keep coming back to this one. So
it's one that I have not spent as much time with as I probably should have. I remember when I very first heard it, I was completely blown away, and I told you this is like a top 10 quality album. But then, other things seemed more appealing just at that because of my emotional or mental state at that time. So it's not one that I've cycled back to nearly as much as I should have, but I know it's amazing. And I have it in that 11 to 20 bucket I was talking about before too. So it's not quite in my top 10 yet, but I could certainly see it moving up if I do find the time to devote to it throughout the year.
I think this here is one of those albums where I'm more impressed with the technical quality of it than I am, like deeper emotional songs or anything like that. Just everything about this is just so well done that, I just really dig this album.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I agree with you. It should be somewhere up here. So moving on to my number 6, the band Sunvher. I can never say that right. It's Sunvher. I don't know if it's just Sunver or Sunvher. I don't know. They put out an album called Arovmia, Arovmia, atmospheric post-black metal from Chile. This is their 2nd full-length album since 2020. It's the solo project of a guy named Jorge Cisternas. This is a very bright and emotionally driven post-black metal album, much like Harakiri, except that the songs are almost happier in a way. It doesn't have that same pained element that Harakiri does. Some of the songs do, but in general, it's just much more of a like feel-good album for me. And every year I try to have at least one of these that I go back to that just makes me in a better mood when I hear it. And this is definitely that album for me. I've listened to it so many times this year, even more than Harakiri, because this year's been rough. So much craziness going on in the world and, personal struggles and just whatever I'm dealing with. Nobody has a great year all the time. Anytime I need any sort of uplifting, this is kind of what I turn to. And it's always been there for me. It's always made me feel better. So I absolutely adore this album. I wish it was available on vinyl. It's honestly the only one in my current top 10 that is not on vinyl and I don't have on vinyl. And I messaged the guy like 3 times saying, please put it on vinyl. So I don't know if it'll happen. His first album's not on vinyl either, but I would absolutely love to have this. So maybe one day. If you haven't heard it, I highly endorse checking it out. It's absolutely beautiful. While Harakiri kind of focuses on depression and addiction and suicide and like the dark sides of the human condition, this one focuses more on nature and dreams. And while it is melancholic a little bit, it's also very bright. So I like it. That's all I can say.
Well, you know how you've termed that fun death metal phrase, what 200 Stab Wounds is? I would almost say this is fun black metal.
I could see that.
Because it's got more major chords in it, which is not usually something that you find in, black metal. So it does have a brighter kind of sound, and I think it really works. But yeah, it would be in my 11 to 20 range, somewhere in there.
That's fair.
Yep. Going to my number 5, and if anybody knows me, this should not be a shock. My number 5 is Misfire, Product of the Environment. Everybody that knows me knows that I love me some thrash metal. And what is the number one thing you need within thrash metal?
Riffs.
That's right. Killer fucking riffs. And Misfire have that in spades. This takes that Bay Area sound into the modern age, but without losing what made that Bay Area sound so powerful, that made it powerful enough to turn goat piss into gasoline back in the day. This will make any fan of Exodus or Death Angel very happy, while also pulling in fans of, Warbringer, Havoc, and Angelus Apatrida. They do such a great job of marrying that Bay Area sound with the modern sound. And still keeping those killer fucking riffs throughout the whole album. I am so glad I bought this on vinyl. I've probably spun this on vinyl 20 times already. And I bought their first album on vinyl as well. And it's not quite as good as this one, but it's not far off either. These guys, I could see them being right in that same kind of zone as Angelus Apatrida of being one of the top 10 great thrash bands that are out right now. Modern thrash bands, you have, of course, Exodus and Death Angel. Nobody will ever forget about them. You know what I mean? So the modern thrash guys like Warbringer, Havoc, Angelus Apatrida, they kind of almost live in their own little section. And I think Misfire could easily break into that.
Yeah, the Misfire album, it didn't really click with me how it did with you, but I understand why you love it. There were at least 2 other thrash metal albums that I loved way more than that one. I really dug the Warfield album and I really dug the Doomsday album, and both of those are in my contention list. But yeah, Misfire, but it's just personal preference. I'm not as big a thrash guy as you are, and that style of thrash doesn't click with me the same way, but I'm glad you got that album because I know you love it.
Oh yeah, it's great.
My number 5, and this is actually a change from where I originally had it, is Noctambulist, number 2, De Droom. Again, a post-black metal album. This one from the Netherlands. This is their second full-length album since 2021. Much like Harakiri, this one focuses on depression and darker sides of humanity. It's just a really beautiful album, and from the first time I heard it, I loved it. It was honestly my album of the year for the first 3 or 4 months of the year. And then, other things came out that just pushed it back further and further. But it's still in my top 5, and it's one of my most listened to albums this year. It's just really beautiful and dark in like all the best ways. So if you haven't heard it and you like post-black metal at all, check it out. It's one of the best.
Yeah, I really dug that one too. But it's just, it came really close to being in my top 10, but it just missed out. I think if I had to say what spot it'd be in, I would probably say 11. It's right there.
Yeah.
Great album.
It's fantastic.
Alrighty, well, my number 4 is Walg, number 5, which is kind of their fifth album, just titled V5, I'm guessing. This album is simply stunning, intensity and raw emotion in equal measure. If you've ever heard a black metal album with actual hooky style riffs straight out of the early 80s, well, listen to this and you can mark that off your bucket list, because it definitely has that. This is another one of those albums that gets better with every time you spin it. It's catchy. It's shockingly catchy. Like you don't normally get this type of catchiness out of black metal. The only black metal band that I've heard that I think come close to the level of catchiness of this one is Sidon. And, that kind of says something.
I don't know. Right? My next pick is another black metal album that I think is a rival for the level of catchiness to this one. But I agree with you. Everything you're saying about Walg's latest is just correct. I mean, it's an incredible album. For me, it's like my number 12. I know exactly where it would be right now in my list. And that's only because I haven't spent as much time with it as I have some of these others. And also because it's incredibly hard to make a top 10 list. There's one album that, I think is slightly... I don't even know it's better. It's just I've spent a lot more time with it, and that's why it is, in the spot right above this one for me. But I completely agree. This Walg album is incredible. They've gotten better with each album. They've done 5 albums in 5 years, and each one is great. I love those guys. Looking forward to everything they put out.
And, like what you just said is absolutely true, too. If I made up this list another time, I might have, different orders, different, whatever. It's not one of those things where you can say definitively this is,
by the end of the year. By the end of the year, you can lock it in at the end of the year. Yeah. But anytime up until then, it's a fluid thing.
You just never know. Never know.
I mean, just like look at last year, we had In Vain as our number 1 all the way until October, and then Gary released Coma, and just I don't know, that was magical.
Yeah,
things can change. So moving on, my number 4. Is Natverd, Tidlows Natislows. That's the album I was just referencing, in case you couldn't catch that. But it is full of catchy, hooky riffs, satanic black metal that's just very memorable, aggressive and fun and dark and catchy. I've gone back to this album probably 60 or 70 times this year. Can't get enough of it. I have it on vinyl. I've spun it probably 15 times. It's even better on vinyl. It's one of those albums you can listen to while you're doing things or sit down and focus on it. And it's amazing as an experience either way. So I absolutely love this. Where did this end up on your list, Christian?
Number 3. So not too far off of yours, but this would have been my next one, number 3. But, this is one of the very best modern takes on the second wave of Norwegian black metal I have ever heard. Filled with awesome atmospheric moments that make the album feel absolutely huge. The album straddles that line of aggression with catchiness better than probably anything I've heard all year, especially in the black metal genre. Aggression with catchiness. I think Walg is just more catchy than it is aggressive. But
I'll agree with that. Walg is much more of a mid-level aggression.
Yeah, they're not super aggressive.
But Natverd is like trying to kill you with their music, but it's super catchy.
Yeah. And, that's why I say that it's probably the best, aggression versus catchiness I've heard all year. If you like black metal but don't like this album, I would say, please send me a message and tell me why, because I don't understand how you could be a fan of black metal and not like this album. I have no idea what would turn a black metal fan off of this album. Unless you personally don't like the guy. Maybe he slept with your girlfriend. I don't know, but maybe that could be the case, but that's the only way I could see, and maybe if he did a good job, you'd still give him a hand. I don't know. Give him a clap.
I agree. I mean, as far as straightforward second wave style black metal goes, this is probably the best album in that vein we've gotten in several years. And it's going to be really hard to topple that. So I'm pretty sure that this is a solidified like top 10 album for both of us.
So too.
Pretty sure anything from this point forward are both solidified top 10 albums for both of us. So yeah,
definitely.
All right,
what's your number? Oh, that was your number 4.
That was my number 4. My number 3 was Puterion, Mountains of Madness, which I absolutely love. 100% endorse checking that one out if you haven't. So what was your number 2, Christian?
Well, my number 2 was Allegian, so you can go. I already talked about that one.
My number 2 is Abduction. They put out an album called Existentialismus. This is black metal from the UK. Their 5th full-length album since 2016. As they call it themselves on the sticker on the front of the album, it is an esoteric, nihilistic masterpiece. And if you don't really know what esoteric means, it means it's not for everybody. But it specifically means that it's for me. This album, from the minute I heard it, I got chills down my spine. And every time I've heard it since then, I still get them. This thing is so introspective and so full of nihilism that it just makes me excited to hear it every single time I do. It is beautiful and dark and expresses how I feel about humanity, expresses how I feel about other people. I cannot get enough of it. I've been listening to this thing pretty much nonstop since February. Have it on vinyl, bought it after listening to it one time. I've spun that vinyl like 30 or 40 times by now. I didn't think anything was going to surpass it, but one album did. So I'll be shocked if this is not in my top 5 by the end of the year. Still, as it stands currently, it's my number 2. Really doesn't get much.
It's
much
definitely
better than that.
Inching up for me. It's not in my top 10, but it's definitely, right on the edge. So yeah, I definitely agree with just about everything you said. So,
but it's sometimes you just hear an album and it's definitely not for everybody, but it feels like it was made specifically for you, and it's a rare thing. But when it happens, like, you can't ignore it. I mean, this album feels like it was written specifically for Justin Corbett by the guys in the UK.
Is that the one that I sent you a message saying, like, oh shit, this here's a Justin special? Like, is that the one? I know I sent you.
You told me that so many times. I don't know. I mean, you can usually tell, but of all of them that I've heard, this is the most specifically written for me, I think. And, it's just full of unrelenting aggression mixed with moments of quiet introspection, spoken word used in a way that is very masterful. A lot of time when spoken word gets put into albums, it's very poorly done or overused. There's just little snippets of it in this that just work perfectly with the music. There's so much that I love about it. I mean, I already raved about it on the first episode where we talked about it, but if you like bleak, nihilistic music, I cannot endorse this enough. But again, it's not going to be for everybody. So if you don't like it, no hard feelings, but I hope that people check it out at least because I love it. So.
I will say it is not an easy album. They are not, and I mean, if the band know that, and they put a sticker on the cover saying that, they know.
But I mean, I think that, I spent a lot of time going back and listening to all their previous albums too. And because they've done 5, this is their 5th one. So number 4 and number 3 sound very similar to this one, but you can tell they've leveled up both musically and editorially. Like, this one is so perfect. The last one had the smallest amount of bloat. The one before that just had a little bit more. But they're both exceptional albums. I really feel like 2025 is the year where I'm discovering not only amazing albums, but also these bands that have all this history that I'm unfamiliar with, that I've been able to go back and discover them. And now, they're in that repertoire of bands that I just love and I can reference. Abduction is definitely one that I found this year that I've fallen in love with. Puterion, I went back and listened to everything they did. I've fallen in love with it. Natverd, I was already familiar with, but I didn't really listen to a lot of their previous stuff. I've gone back and checked all that out, and I love it. Even my number 1 band, the same thing. They've had several releases, and I've gone back and listened to all of those, and I could say any of these bands would be like in my top 50 bands, top 100 bands of all time now, because I like all of the stuff they put out. It's not just that I only like the new album. So it's really kind of been a great year for discovery for me so far.
Yeah. Alrighty. My number 1, since my number 2 was Legion, my number 1 is The Halo Effect, March of the Unheard. Days of the Lost blew me away when I first heard it in 2022. And when I heard this in January of this year, I had the exact same reaction. And, since that time, it has surpassed Days of the Lost for me personally. And part of that as well is exactly why I have this in the top spot is for a very particular reason. There's a lot of shit going on in the world right now, and we always try and stay positive on the show because, there's enough negativity out there already. So, we certainly don't want to add to it. But that can really be a challenge sometimes, staying positive. I have the same issues with depression that you also have. And what I do with this album and what it does for me is it gives me a sense of happiness. Every time I listen to this album, it just makes me smile and it makes me happy. It gives me a boost of energy, and I definitely need that, especially in this day and age with everything that's going on. And like I said, I've had issues with mental health in the past. And, and honestly, I'm not sure if it's a metalhead thing or not, but quite a few of the metalheads that I know also have had, depression issues.
I don't think,
as well.
I think it's everybody, man. I think that,
yeah.
Obviously we talk to a lot of metalheads, so we get their perspective on it, but there's a whole lot of normies out there that have the same kind of issues. I think it's just the state of the world.
Yeah,
people are depressed in general because being on your phone all the time and constant information overload and the difficulty in dating in the real world and making friends in the real world. There's so many things that have just changed from what they were when we were kids. That almost everybody has some level of depression and anxiety.
It certainly feels that way.
The difference is how you choose to deal with it, And I completely agree with you. Like the Halo Effect album, it's actually my number 11. And I could say that with certainty. And I've returned to it many times for the same reason. It is a very uplifting, fun album that just makes me feel good when I hear it. But I don't necessarily seek out happiness when I'm feeling depressed. Sometimes I like to lean into it, which maybe is not the way that you handle things, which is why, something like Abduction ends up in my top 2 rather than something like the Halo Effect. But I'm with you there. When I want something fun, it's definitely an album I seek out.
And, when I met Michael Stana in Lincoln, he's a very positive person, in person. And you can hear that. You can hear uplifting things in Dark Tranquility. You can hear uplifting things in Cemetery Skyline. This guy just, he's a modern fucking genius.
Pick any performance of his and watch it, and he will smile the entire time. I've never seen a guy smile that much anywhere, let alone being the lead singer of death metal bands. I mean, Michael Stana is just happiness embodied in a person. Maybe he's not actually that way in his personal life, but he never lets the audience know it. But I mean, his joy seems completely genuine, and it always does seem to come across in his music. He seems so appreciative of the career that he has and so appreciative for people wanting to hear his music. And, he just always seems to be having a great time performing. So it comes across. I mean, and it makes you feel better too.
That picture you posted on Facebook the other day of him with a T-shirt that said, with a circle and a slash through it that says clean
vocals. Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck yeah. There you go.
He's one of us.
And he's smiling. Yeah. He's smiling. And I think I mentioned is shit, we need to send him a harsh vocal shirt.
Yeah, we should. Michael Stana, if you're listening, we'd love to have you on, just so you know.
Yeah. I think we could carve out about 19 hours for an interview. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I can do that.
Let us know your schedule. We're happy to accommodate.
I'll even send you a shirt.
Nice. All right, well, moving on. My number 1 is the band Dormant Ordeal and the album Tooth and Nail. This is technical, blackened death metal from Poland. Their 4th full-length album since 2005. It's a well-paced and dynamic album, full of shifts between crushing moments and softer melodies. A good way to put it in perspective is, if you could imagine Garia as a technical death metal band rather than a black metal or post-black metal band, you'll get Dormant Ordeal. And I'm on record as saying how much I enjoy Garia's music. Really shouldn't surprise you if you put it in that perspective, how much I like this. This is an album that I've gone back to probably 100 times or more. It's one of my most listened to albums, if not my most listened to album. And I really can't get enough of it. There's so many moments in this that are just so majestic and impressive. It feels like just such a massive album. And there's just everything I look for in technical blackened death metal. I enjoy it thoroughly. I don't really know what else I can say.
It's a fantastic album. It's just outside my top 10, just like it seems like 140 other albums. So, yeah.
In my notes, I put even Angry Metal Guy gave it a 4.0, and those guys never go above a 3.5. So, that's a testament to how good it is.
That is kind of funny about them. They rarely... have you ever seen a perfect score on there?
I have, but it's only been like once or twice. It's extremely rare. I mean, like 90% of the albums that come out, they give a 3.5 or worse. Yeah, they're very judgmental in their scoring. Yep. But they agree. Dormant Ordeal is great. And honestly, all of Dormant Ordeal's albums are fantastic. Like, I had never heard them before this year. I discovered them with this album. I fell in love with this one. I've spent a lot of time going back and listening to previous ones. And honestly, the previous like 2 or 3 are so close to quality of this one. Like, these guys I could see becoming one of my favorite bands if I spend more time with them over the years. Everything they put out is just fantastic. So I really love these guys.
Sweet.
And that does it for our top 10 of the year so far. I will say I do have honorable mentions. I'm going to run through this real quick, but everything that's in that bucket that I was just talking about, Halo Effect, Besna, Kogus, Walg, Onfot, Jade, Tomarum, Sphere, Amalekam, Wormium, Usquam, Havakrunu, Lucifer's Child, Admire the Grim, Refused, Doomsday, and Warfield. All of those bands put out fucking phenomenal albums that are all incredibly close to being in my top 10. So if you heard a name in there that you haven't heard yet, I highly recommend looking up their latest album and checking it out.
I didn't make an honorable mention list, so I will just say ditto.
Although I'm sure that they're very similar. All of those are good. Yeah.
All of those are very good. So.
All right. Well, let's move into pickups then. What have you picked up recently?
I'm going to have to go quick because a lot of stuff came in either that I had on order or I picked up at a local shop or Blastbeat had a special sale or Amazon had a special sale or whatever. So this is going to be kind of long. I have the Bewitcher debut. I picked up Bone Hunter. Sexual Panic, Human Machine. I got Doomsday, Never Known Peace, the Doomsday album you were talking about.
I love that album.
Deraps, Viva Rock and Roll, that band that sounds a lot like fucking Van Halen. That Cryptan album, Violence or Power, came in, I think it was I think right after we recorded the last episode. In Flames, Clayman, I got that in. Finally, the Lord Weird Slough-Egg, their Traveler Supplemental 1 came in. I don't know why it kept getting delayed, but it showed up finally. I was able to pick up Amorphous, the Carillion Isthmus, and Amorphous Elegy at a local place. I have no idea why they had that there, but they had it there. Out at that same place, I picked up Dream Theater, Images and Words, the old album, easily my favorite Dream Theater album. I'm missing Dimmu so much that I picked up Northern Forces over Wacken, which I normally don't buy live albums, but I'm missing Dimmu so much, and the track listing on that album is so fucking good. So,
it's a good track list, yeah.
Yeah. Then I was able to pick up Children of Bodom, Hate Crew Death Roll.
For a great price, man. I'm super jealous you found that at that price.
$40.
I don't have any of the Children of Bodom albums on vinyl, but I would love to have those first 4.
I actually have, I think I have all, what's the green one?
Hatebreeder.
Hatebreeder, yeah, there you go. I think I don't have the green one, but either way. Then I was able to pick up Liminal Shroud, Visions Collapse. I picked up Soilwork, Chain Heart Machine, Soilwork, Steel Bath Suicide, Overkill, The Electric Age. Just today, I just came in the mail like an hour before we started recording. I got that Veil of Panath album, The Prodigal Empire, an old one. Nice. I think I got it on Amazon for like $16 or something. That's something crazy. And then, of course, Blastbeat's vinyl had reissues of early Old Man's Child albums, and I picked the 3 that they had. I didn't write down exactly which 3 they were, but yeah, big Old Man's Child fan. And so, yeah, that was easy. But that's way too much. Way too much.
Well,
let's bear in mind that was spread out over like 6 months or something. It just all happened to show up at the same time.
Well, I haven't picked up nearly as much, but I was looking for that Coffin Feeder album that just came out, Big Trouble, because I really enjoyed it on vinyl. And It was like sold out on their Bandcamp, and Indie Merch Store had it at some point, but they sold out as well. Blast Beats got some copies in, so I went ahead and ordered that from them. And I also picked up the Pandemia album that just came out, Dark and Devotion, because I really enjoyed that one as well. So got both of those on the way from Blast Beats. They should be here tomorrow. As I mentioned before, my wife got me the Grab album for Father's Day, which is cool. I also went and saw the Rivers of Nile concert this past weekend. It was Rivers of Nile, Inner Arma, Holy Fawn, and Glacial Tomb. Although because of the monsoon that came through, I missed the Glacial Tomb performance, which is unfortunate because I actually like their latest album. Inner Arma, I've never been like a massive fan of their albums. Like they're okay. There are parts that I really like, but listening to them, I was never that big of a fan. But holy shit, they're incredible live. Completely blew me away. I was transfixed with their performance. Plus, they were hilarious. They put so much of themselves into each performance that it really like made them feel like such a genuine band. It was funny because Metallica was here the night before, and there was a bunch of people in the audience wearing Metallica shirts. And so the drummer from Inner Arma kept interrupting the show to ask what songs Metallica played to one of the guys that was in the front of the audience. And he's like, should we try to play that song? And then his bandmates would be like, no, we're not going to do that. And then they would start playing a song and then go back to their real song. But then finally he asked the guy, how was Lars's performance? And the guy said, it was sloppy but fine. And then the drummer from Inner Arma just put on the shit-eating grin and said, just like me. And he chugged a beer and then he went right into the next song. It was really fucking funny. And they had me laughing the whole time. Holy Fawn, I don't know if you ever heard them before, but they're like more of a traditional prog rock band. I tried listening to the latest album before I got to the show. I did not really like it because there's no harsh vocals whatsoever. But when they performed, they played a new single they had, which is full of harsh vocals, and I really liked that. I like the music. I just can't do the cleans, And then they played a new song they had just written called Fuck Ice, Nobody is Illegal, which nice. I thought was pretty funny. And that was full of harsh vocals too. So I really dug that. So I was impressed with their performance. I hope that they continue with the trend of adding more harsh vocals because A, their singer's really good at it, and B, it really contributes well to the music style that they play. And there's too many cleans as it is. And then Rivers played, and they played like a really good mix of like old and new stuff. All the big songs from The Work and the big songs from Owls both got performed, and then all 4 of the singles from the latest album. They were fantastic live, just so incredibly tight. Every time the saxophonist came on stage, he was doing like weird dances and stuff, and the whole audience was just eating it up. Performance was phenomenal. I wrote up a whole concert review on harshvocals.com if you want to check it out. I wish they hadn't played American Death, but they did. But everything else was great. So I'm glad I went there. I had such a good time despite all that. Andy, the new vocalist from Black Crown Initiate, I wasn't really sure what to expect because I really liked Jake Vocals, their previous vocalist. I really enjoyed his live performances the 2 times I had seen him prior. Andy really took all their songs and made them his own, so they were great live. If you get a chance to check out this tour, they've only got like 5 shows left. I'd say go for it. I had a really good time overall. Other than that, tour announcements. Revocation just announced a tour that I'm super excited about with Inferi and Vomit Forth. Is that coming anywhere near you, Christian?
Nope.
That sucks.
It'd be like, I think it's Chicago. I think that is the closest, but it's also on a Monday, and I got to work on Mondays, so that's just not going to happen. But
that's too bad.
Plus, I don't know if I would drive 5.5 hours to see Revocation, but I don't know. Maybe.
It's at Scout Bar, which is like an hour and a half for me, but it's like, I love Inferi. Revocation has one of my favorite death metal albums of all time, and Deathless. I absolutely fucking love the Deathless album. Their other stuff I like, but I'm not a massive fan of. But I've never seen them live, and I would love to see them live. Touring with Inferi is awesome. I really like Vomit Forth. I saw them on the Chaos and Carnage tour. They were fantastic live there, so I'm excited to see them again. So I'm definitely going to be at that show, but I can understand not wanting to drive 5 hours for it. And then an even more exciting tour announcement, Groza is finally coming to the U.S., which I'm absolutely fucking stoked about. They're touring with Panzerfaust, which is okay, but they're hitting Houston. Are they hitting anywhere near you?
Nope.
Are you going to travel for Groza?
Not even remotely close to here. It's not even remotely close to here. I don't think there's anything close to here.
Well, there's Chicago.
Maybe that's the one that I'm thinking of that's on a Monday. I think it is. I think that is the one that I'm thinking of that's on a Monday.
It's on the 22nd. Let's see. Yeah, that's a Monday in Chicago.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, that's it. Because I would actually drive for that, but yeah, a Monday I got to work, and yeah, I work 12-hour shifts, so I can't really skip out on days, really.
I got you. Well, that's too bad. You could always fly down here and hang out for a weekend. Go see him with me. I'll be going to the October 7th show, which I guess is a Tuesday. That's not much better.
No, it's not.
Well, either way, Gross is coming. I'm excited to see him live, so that'll be cool.
I have better news because this Saturday I will be in Iowa City seeing Sidon and Tra, or Traha. I think it's just Tra, Trha. Then Sunday, I will be at Lefty's Live Music here in Des Moines seeing Sidon and Tra.
Well,
I'm going to see him 2 nights in a row. So
yeah, that'll be a fun weekend for sure.
I figure I'll drive to Iowa City. Both my daughters live there. I'll go hang out with them for the day. And I told them, I threatened them that I was going to take them to a heavy metal show because one daughter listens to EDM and the other one listens to rap. And so I told them that I was going to take them to a metal show. And they were like, well, I'm just coming off of a long shift. My one daughter's a nurse. He's like, I'm just coming off of a long shift, and I don't know if it's... And I was like, it's okay. I'll drive. And, she's trying to be nice about not wanting to go. And
as Sidon says in all their promotional materials, you got to take them to the bloodbath, right?
Yeah, there you go. And I just keep, completely ignoring the hints that she's dropping and doing it completely on purpose. So there's that.
That's funny. Well, I'm sure you'll have a great time. They're always
I'm not going to make
live,
her go.
So, yeah. Even if you go by yourself, I'm sure you'll have a great time.
Yeah, I will. Well, I'll be delivering some Harsh Vocal shirts, so there's that.
That's cool. That's always good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for pickups. Anything else you want to talk about before we move into our extreme submission?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
It's already running a little bit long.
We knew it was going to. It's a top 10 episode.
Yeah, with a top 10. Yeah.
All right. Well, our submission this episode comes from a band called Hellwinter. They released an EP back in August of last year called Painting in Black. This is melodic black metal from Italy. Slightly raw production. It's not overly raw. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, maybe a little bit thin, as Christian likes to call it, but really great guitar work. Some incredible melodies throughout all 4 songs on this EP. Vocal delivery is excellent. This is really on the cusp of being perfect.
Yeah, it's super hard to describe because it is one of those deals where they're right there. It's right there.
Yeah.
And it's just the smallest bit of a change here or there, I think could really make this just really incredible. I could see them, I think I sent you a text message that said I could see them on their sophomore album. Maybe not their very first debut album, but maybe the one after that, I could see them coming up with something truly special because there's something here that you can't really quantify. There's just something about it that really kind of sticks with you. Like the track that you're going to play, what's that called again? The Fjord song?
Yeah, it's Shadows of the Fjord.
Yeah, that is really fucking good. I think it's the best out of the 4.
I agree.
And they're, the way it's layered, everything about it is fantastic. I think it'd be better with better production. Of course, anything really would. But out of all the extreme submissions that we've gotten, this is one of my favorites. I really think it's one of the better ones.
I completely agree. I mean, we've done, 20 of these so far, and I think this is definitely the strongest of all the extreme submissions we've gotten.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's so close to being professional level
right there. Yeah.
Production and everything.
Right
it's right there. They did release a new track earlier this month called Faustian Bargain. It's just a single. It's available on their Bandcamp, hellwinter.bandcamp.com. I'm going to go ahead and post the link to their Bandcamp when I put out the episode. I like this track a lot. This is a little bit more polished sounding than the ones from the EP. I think you'll dig this one a lot too if you haven't heard it yet, Christian. But if this is what we have to look forward to, I'm very excited. I mean, even the cover design is very cool on this. It's like a guy in a cloak with giant antlers and like a rainstorm, but it's done in kind of a traditional painting style. It's very cool. So everything about this project I'm a huge fan of. And this is actually the solo project of a guy named Federico Romano. He goes by the moniker The King. So I don't have a lot of more information about the band, but they're from Italy. And this is top-notch stuff. So I'm looking forward to more. I hope a full album comes out later this year or next year, and we can do a proper review on it, because this is definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like I said, I think it's the best extreme submission we've had so far. So
I agree. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, this is Hellwinter off of the EP Painting in Black, and the name of the track that we're going to play is Shadows of the Fjord. Hope you guys enjoy it, and we will see you back in a couple weeks.
See ya.